Ben & Jerry's has officially endorsed Black Lives Matter, including this lovely statement on their corporate website. Systemic and institutionalized racism are the defining civil rights and social justice issues of our time. We've come to understand that to be silent about the violence and threats to the lives and well-being of black people is to be complicit in that violence. We ask you to join us in not being complicit. Yeah, just keep pushing that narrative. Keep pretending like there's nothing that black people do to provoke the suspicion that they are placed under by law enforcement. Just keep pretending that they don't commit way more crime than any other racial demographic in the US. Nope, it's all because they're black. It's all because they're being unfairly discriminated against by the police. Reverend Dr. William J. Barber II, president of the North Carolina NAACP, said it best when reacting to the recent police shooting in Charlotte, North Carolina. He said, "Our objective is simple, to ensure justice-loving people act towards justice with all evidence, and that we stand together and act from a place of power and love, rather than out of fear and anger." Like the fear and anger of thousands of idiots destroying their own city and attacking white people at random? It's been hard to watch the list of unarmed black Americans killed by law enforcement officers grow longer and longer. We understand that numerous black Americans and white Americans have profoundly different experiences and outcomes with law enforcement and the criminal justice system. According to the Bureau of Justice Statistics National Crime Victimization Survey 2012 through 2013, blacks committed 560,600 acts of violence against whites, excluding homicide, while whites committed 99,403 acts of violence against blacks, excluding homicide. In other words, blacks committed 85% of non-homicide interracial crimes of violence between blacks and whites, even though they are less than 13% of the population. This proportion is similar between blacks and other ethnic groups, such as blacks versus Latinos. I wonder how many of them were charged with hate crimes. This guy told a white woman that he was raping her as revenge for slavery, blatantly racially motivated, and he wasn't charged with a hate crime. How's that for different fucking outcomes? We want to be clear. We believe that saying Black Lives Matter is not to say that the lives of those who serve in the law enforcement community don't. We respect and value the commitment to our communities that those in law enforcement make, and we respect the value of every one of their lives. Yes, you respect the value of the lives of police and white people so much that you're officially endorsing a hate movement that inspires fear in the police. A Chicago police officer who was hospitalized after she was severely beaten says she was afraid to use her gun because of the scrutiny she would have faced, Superintendent Eddie Johnson said. On Wednesday morning, police responded to a car crash at Roosevelt and Cicero on the city's west side, where officers encountered a man that police allege was violent and under the influence of drugs. She thought she was going to die. She knew that she should shoot this guy, but she chose not to because she didn't want her family or the department to have to go through scrutiny the next day on national news, Superintendent Johnson said. But we do believe that whether black, brown, white, or blue, our nation and our very way of life is dependent on the principle of all people being served equal justice under the law, and it's clear that the effects of the criminal justice system are not colorblind. We do not place the blame for this on individual officers. Rather, we believe it is due to the systemic racism built into the fabric of our institutions at every level, disadvantaging and discriminating against people of color in ways that go beyond individual intent to discriminate. All lives do matter, but all lives will not matter until Black Lives Matter. Not creepy and delusional in the least. Black lives matter so little that a police officer will let a suspect beat her because she's afraid to defend herself. And on a related note, in the wake of repeated demands for Black Lives Matter to be declared a hate group, the SPLC has written a whole article on why it isn't a hate group, from President Richard Cohen. Each year, the Southern Poverty Law Center, of which I am the president, compiles and publishes a census of domestic hate groups. We've received a number of requests to name Black Lives Matter a hate group in the wake of the murders of 8 police officers in Dallas and Baton Rouge. Conservative commentators have joined the chorus, as if only conservatives are concerned about this. These critics fundamentally misunderstand the nature of hate groups and the Black Lives Matter movement. Hate groups are, by our definition, those that vilify entire groups of people based on immutable characteristics such as race or ethnicity. Most domestic hate groups hold white supremacist views. We have heard nothing remotely comparable to the new Black Panther Party's bigotry from the founders and most prominent leaders of the Black Lives Matter movement, except for all those times the founders of Black Lives Matter openly stated that their ideological inspiration was Assata Shakur, the Black Panther and Black Liberation Army member.
This is from our beloved Assata Shakur, who is on the #1 FBI most wanted list, and she's a powerful leader who we are inspired by. Many of us have Assata Taught Me sweaters. So it's 3 times, and we're going to start off with a whisper, and you're going to just repeat it. It is our duty to fight for freedom. It is our duty to fight for freedom. It is our duty to win. It is our duty to win. We must love and support one another. We must love and support one another. We have nothing to lose but our chains. We have nothing to lose but our chains.
But before we condemn the entire movement for words of a few, we should ask ourselves whether we would also condemn the entire Republican Party for the racist words of its presumptive nominee, or for the racist rhetoric of many other politicians in the party over the course of years.
Not just gangs of kids anymore. They are often the kinds of kids that are called super predators.
The backlash to Black Lives Matter in some ways reflects a broad sense of unease among white people. We consistently see this phenomenon in surveys showing that large numbers of white people believe that racial discrimination against them is as pervasive or more so than it is against African Americans. White people tend to see racism as a zero-sum game. Black people see it differently. And unfortunately, the fact that white people tend to see race as a zero-sum game may actually impede progress. White people, white people, white people.